Welcome everybody. We've got a little bit more than 50 people on the call. Feel free to send the link to other people you know. We can actually accommodate up to 500 people under this account. So if you know of anybody else that wanted to join but weren't sure due to limitations, feel free to send over. Either way, everybody joins muted, so nobody will be able to disturb the meeting even if they join later on.
我们看到现在有差不多50多位的这个朋友加入我们的会议。那我们这个会议这个 Zoom 的账号是可以有500个人以上的，所以如果你们需要分享给你们社区的人，然后他们需要参与的话，这个完全没有问题的，因为默认来讲他们也会被 mute 掉，也不会在中间的过程中影响到整个会议的环节。
All right, so without further ado, welcome Dan, welcome BM as you're known in China. Dan is going to be, as I said, going to be giving us a little overview of Eden. He won't go into too many details so that we have more time for question and answer. I will give preference to people that I recognize are in China for questions and or top 21 block producers, mainly because Telegram has been very tricky lately where we've been hosting English calls or predominantly English calls, but in China, Telegram has been blocked by VPN and more forcefully lately. So very few people have been able to actually participate in the calls and ask questions. That does not mean that other people cannot ask questions. I'll just always give preference if I see anybody else first off. And welcome, Dan. Thank you very much for joining us.
那我们就废话不多说，准备欢迎这个 Dan 来介绍 Dan， 也就是这个 BM 来介绍一下这个 Eden OS 的一个简介。那这个它的简介环节不会花太多的时间，因为后面会留蛮多的时间给大家提问的。那提问的其实之前关于 Eden OS 在 Telegram 上面已经有几次这个电话上面的一个讨论了。那本次环节我们也希望说把更多的提问呢留给这个中文社区的或者是这个排名比较靠前的这个BP 们去参与进来因为最近确实 Telegram 好像被强的蛮厉害的所以那我们废话不多说，欢迎一下这个BM 给我们介绍一下 Eden OS。哦。
All right, go for it.
Thank you guys so much for having me.
Actually, Dan, I forgot one thing. In order to be able to ask questions, people, there is a raise hand function in Zoom. If you raise your hand in Zoom, it will alert me, and that's how we'll know who wants to ask questions. Because I do need to unmute people in order for them to talk.
I did cover that. 那就像我刚刚讲，就是提问环节的时候，请使用Zoom 上面的这个举手这个功能。举手之后 ，host 呢会把这个静音给取消，这样你就可以发言提问了。That's good. Good from the side.
All right. Please bear with me, and I've not used the translator before, so I need to gauge how much to say at one time. Let me know if I should go longer or shorter.
No problem.
All right.
You can start.
All right. So I want to thank everyone for joining me here today. It's really an honor to be able to address the Chinese community in the top 21, and I want to thank EOS Nation for making this possible.
非常感谢大家有这个机会让我来分享这个 Eden OS， 那也有这个机会跟中国的社区以及前21的这个节点们来分享，也非常感谢这个 EOS Nation 节点来组织本次的这个会议。
All right. So I know there's been a lack of communication from me in the past, and I am looking forward to communicating more frequently with the Chinese community going forward.
过去从这个也就是说 Daniel 来讲，那他觉得说过去跟社区的一些沟通都是比较欠缺的，那这个也是他自己意识到的。那 未来他希望有更多的这个跟社区上面的沟通，会以各种形式发生。
I know there was a lot of confusion about me leaving block.one. I can say that my heart has always been with EOS and that I am thrilled to be part of the community where I can engage freely and help realize the vision we all are here for.
我知道社区对我离开 block.one 公司确实有很多的这个疑问，我的心一直都是跟 EOS 在一起的，然后我非常的兴奋，现在可以以更自由的身份自由的方式去参与到这个社区的这个搭建的过程。
For the past couple of years, I've been looking for solutions to decentralized governance that would ensure that the money and tokens of the community was utilized in the most decentralized way possible, and yet for the benefit of the community to develop the software the community needs.
我过去几年一直都在探索如何用这个去中心化的方式去治理，用去中心化的方式去给社区创造价值。
The solutions or the answers are not easy. And so I spent a lot of time organizing my thoughts and putting them down in a book, More Equal Animals. And this book represents the principles behind decentralized governance, true democracy that maximizes the power of the people.
那这个探索找到的这些这个解决方案也好，或者答案也好，实际上都没有那么的简单。那我也是花了蛮多的时间去整理我的思路最终书写成一本书，叫做这个More Equal Animals 这本书。刚才 Daniel 也show给大家看了一下，这本书里面也会把它关于去中心化治理如何利用去中心化治理去给社区创造更大的价值的整个原则性的一些条理写在这本书里面。
Lost my train of thought. Hold on a second. With More Equal Animals, sorry.
刚翻译的过程会让他思路上有点那个没有跟上
Yeah, disrupted my train of thought, so I need to remember where I was.
No problem.
You can go a little bit longer, Dan, if you want, like a longer train of thoughts. That might be easier for you.
Yeah, if I have parts that I missed, I'll come back to you for more explanation on that. Just feel free to express where you think it's you know enough to express your ideas. 因为Dan之前没有
You are muted. All right, now you're unmuted.
What I want to do is empower the community to take responsible for the network to be independent of block.one.
那他希望通过去中心化治理呢，让整个网络和整个社区能独立的去运作而不需要 block.one 的这个参与。
The community has the resources with just a small amount of inflation to fund far more teams and far more people than block.one is funding. If we can work together to put trusted people in charge of building the infrastructure we need to make EOS a success.
那通过使用一点点的这个增发，实际上我们可以拿到的这个资助是远比block.one 之前放进来的更多，而去让更多的团队在社区里面发挥出他们的这个力量。
I have been working with a all the leaders in the Western side. A lot of them are on this call, and we've really have a new beginning and a new excitement and a commitment to move forward together. I'm, I guess you have the first slide.
我在过去一段时间也跟西方社区里面很多社区的这个领袖们有讨论过我的 EOS 这个计划，那我觉得这是一个非常崭新的一个开始，也是一个非常兴奋的一个开始。
So we're working together. We have agreement that the process I outlined and has been translated for you in the proposals can be implemented, and we have enthusiastic participation in the West.
那参与到这些跟我一起去把这个思想构建出来的很多社区成员呢，也都在这个会议上面。那我们把这整个已经整个过程，整个治理的过程是怎么样了我们已经梳理的还蛮清楚的。所以我在这个会议上，我希望给大家讲一下。
I am committed to building the infrastructure that will ensure that EOS is the most decentralized and sustainable blockchain on the market.
我非常想要做到的是，或者我全心投入想做到的是，把 EOS 打造成一个最去中心化最有可持续发展的一个区块链社区。
Yeah, we have a lot of really talented teams that are building wallets and API nodes and other infrastructure, and I'm working to organize all of those pieces together so that they can be well integrated and easy to use for end users.
我们有非常多非常棒的团队，他们做了钱包也好，或者这个 API 节点也好，或者各种基础设施的这些工具。那我希望把这些都组织起来让这个社区变得更好。
All right.
让 EOS 变得更易使用。
Thank you. So at this point, I'd like to open it up to any specific questions that people might have about what's going on, where we're going, and just turn it over to you guys to let me fill in the blanks of what's missing.
我刚刚简单的介绍了一下这个 EOS 的想法，那我也希望说接下来把时间开放给大家去做一些具体的一些提问关于我们不管是我们的路线也好我们一些想法也好大家都可以随意的提出来。
All right, so if anybody has any questions, please raise your hands and then I'll be able to hopefully spot you and unmute you. And feel free to ask anything you want. Not all at once.
I saw Carter raise his hand.
Oh yeah,
should be good now. All right, there you go.
Hearing okay, cool. Yeah, I just wanted to ask. So just because Rapid is also located in mainland China, maybe we haven't been up to date on all the Telegram stuff. How can we as top 21 block producers help out and make EOS a reality as soon as possible?
All right. Well, for starters, signaling your support is the most important thing you can do. I suppose we should translate your question as well.
Right. 那个刚才 Carter 来自 EOS Rapid， 他问的就是说，我们作为这个前27的节点来讲，怎么去参与到EOS， 让这个 EOS 的整个想要做的事情可以更快的发生，更快的见到。
one of the things that there's been is a lack of communication between the East and the West, and a lot of the people in the West are suspicious of what's going on in the East. And it'd be really great to break down that barrier and let everyone know that the block producers are here to see the success of the network as a whole.
那 Dan 的回答是，首先就是那希望前20个节点能去做一些表明说支持这个 EOS 的一些动作。那他觉得过去很长一段时间，在 block producer 和这个社区中间特别是中国和西方的这个社区的之间还是有一些沟通上的一些不顺畅有很多西方社区的都不是很确定 block producer 在做一些什么样的一些事情，节点们在做些什么样的事情以及他们在这个对于这个 EOS 的这个参与度是怎么样还不确定，所以他希望说首先做一个节点可以做的第一件事情就是做一些表态去支持这个EOS。
And one of the ways that I'm asking to show the support is to make a small transfer of 100 EOS to an account for Eden. This is more symbolic than anything. It's not a binding commitment. And that by doing so, we can demonstrate to the world that we are united as a group to move forward and make changes, and that there is communication occurring between the two. Now, this would definitely be non-binding, but more symbolic to say that we want to work together.
Okay, cool. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, let me finish the translation here. So, Daniel, 这个 BN 他的建议就是说，可以就是怎么去象征性的表达这个节点们可以支持这样的提议呢？就是可以做一个简单的100 EOS 这个转账，去转到Eden 这个组织下面的一个账号，去象征性的表明这个节点支持这项这个 Eden 的 EOS 这个运作也好，或者我们它的整个路线也好他觉得这个它不是强制性需要大家去转，那他觉得说，但这个是一个象征性的让节点们表明他们的这个支持。
Carter, you want to add something?
Oh yeah, I was just wondering. So other than like transferring the like 100 or so EOS in order to signal our support, is there anything on the technical side? Because I know also there's a lot of Chinese teams that are super technically strong as well. Is there anything on the technical side that we can do to support as well? Whether it's like you mentioned, like opening up API nodes or building wallets or building dApps, anything in particular?
Right, let's translate the question and then I'll answer it.
Yeah. 那 Carter 继续提问，就是说，那刚才是从这个，如果是除了这个象征性的去通过转 EOS 的方式让节点们去表明支持之外，有没有其他的可以去这个支持的呢？比如说在技术层面上的一些支持之类的，因为确实国内还是有蛮多蛮强的这些团队，不管是见过做过各样的这个工具也好或者基础设施也好是否在技术层面上也能去参与或者去帮到 EOS？
For starters, I want to apologize for my own lack of knowledge of the extent of everything that's going on in China from a technical level. I believe that you guys have done an incredible job. Eden is designed to evolve to fund both the Chinese side and the Western side with independent budgets once we've established the process, so that we can enable both ecosystems to flourish with innovation and then collaborate.
BM 首先说，他确实对这个中国社区、中国开发者做的这些贡献， 他自己觉得说他自己了解还不够多这个他是表明歉意的。他知道有很多这个创新都来自中国，在 EOS 上面的创新都来自中国社区以及中国的这个开发者。那 EOS 的整个设计呢，在未来也会慢慢演变到说，在不同的这个语言或者地区，它可以有自己的这个去中心化这个治理的一个过程这个细节虽然 Daniel 他刚才没有在他的这个回答中讲到，但因为我自己看了蛮多 EOS 的整个proposal 的，这个内容也有翻译出来。确实，在 EOS 在整个设计上面呢，从它的 Part 1和 Part 2以及 Timeline 里面已经有 cover 到它的一些怎么去让不同的这个语言、不同的地区能去自主的去这个治理的过程有一些详细的解释啊。我觉得那些内容大家也可以回头去看一下，还是蛮有启发性的。
In the short term, we're growing our team to collect and learn, what contributions can be made. Please coordinate through EOS Nation. You speak good English as well. I'd be happy to work with everyone who can help the English speaking side of things. The translation barrier is a real challenge, which is why I want both sides to be able to develop independent ecosystems because they have independent needs and they need independent leaders.
那因为 Dan 因为他主要对于他来讲，英文还是他的主要语言，那他会着力在发展这个英文的这个自主建设社区的这一块但是 EOS 它是可以演变到多语言的。那这个也是因为他个人的这个这个语言上面的一些限制那他希望说如果能英语比较好的小伙伴也可以参与起来，一起去把这个英文这一块给它做得更好把这个底层的这些 EOS 这个基础设施做好之后，因为这些未来对于其他的国家、其他的语言也是可以通用的那他觉得说，因为不同的国家和地区的对于治理的需求也是会有一些不一样的，所以EOS 所以 EOS 在设计的时候已经考虑到这一点，会让不同的国家与地区会以单独的形式会发展出一个去中心化治理的一个体系。
Awesome, thank you. And Dan is getting good at this. He actually asked the questions to be translated before he answers them. That's awesome. So there is I'm gonna let Johnny or Zhao Yu from Lao Mao ask a question just so that people know there are 60 people in the chat right now, and out of the top 21, I count 18 EP, so the majority of the top 21 is here. Zhao Yu, you should be able to unmute yourself now.
Got it. So I have two questions. The first one is, what's the process of the initial funding process going to be like to reach 1,000 supporters? And I mean, any KYC required for you to be able to be a supporter? And the second question is, what's the roadmap going to be like for EOS Alliance? I mean, what kind of projects you're going to fund with the EOS you're going to have from ramp fee? Yeah. Sorry. Thank you.
All right.
你要自己翻译一下。
OK，我两个问题，第一个问题就是这个 Eden 社区扩大到1000个人的这个过程当中是个什么样的流程？然后要不要做 KYC 啊什么的？有没有一些细节？我第二个问题就是 EOS Alliance 拿到这个RAM fee 之后，他们有没有自己的路线？就是大概会放的什么样的项目？还有就是他们的评选标准啊什么的。对，谢谢。
Right. So I'm going to answer this first with the KYC. The idea behind Eden is that it's invite only, and every person who is invited will appear on a Zoom call that will be recorded and will be made public, so everyone can verify they are a real person. no government IDs will be required. Instead, it will be based upon trust and long-term direct relationships, with the root of the trust being the people that you saw on the slide earlier.
整个Eden 的这个1000个人的扩展方式，它是一开始会以邀请制的方式，那得到这个邀请的需要一起参与一个 Zoom 的这个视频会议，而视频会被录制以及会放到 IPFS 上面公开的去发布出来。它不需要这种政府发行的比如说护照啊这种方式去做 KYC， 它更多是使用了这个所谓的叫 Web of Trust， 就是信任网的方式，而所有参与到的这个视频会议都是会被记录下来，以及会放到 IPFS 上面公开的，让大家都可以看到。
The second part of the question was the roadmap, and what we're going to spend the money on. The roadmap is basically we're going to get the people. We're going to do things manually with video verification, and then we're going to build tools to automate this with on-chain transactions, which will confirm the membership and will confirm the election results. And so the very first election will occur manually, and then by the time we get to the second election, we should hopefully have some tools to facilitate it on chain. As far as the majority of the funds, where they go will be determined by who is elected in the election. The vast majority of the funds are reserved to those people that are selected by the election, with just a small amount of funds that are reserved to reimburse me for the development costs, or the Alliance for the development costs of the election software itself. And so I am funding most of this up front, so you'll be able to see the results before choosing to fund it.
整个路线来讲的话，首先第一轮的这个选举呢，包括刚才讲的这个邀请和视频的这个验证，会使用这个手动的方式。那在完成第一轮这个选举之后呢，我们会通过这些经验学习，然后在第二轮之前，希望能用这个希望能把这些上链。用更去中心化的方式、更自动的方式去做到。那我们希望说在第二次选举的时候，我们就可以使用上这个链上的方式去完成。关于这个这些资金怎么使用，关于这个资金怎么使用的话，这个最主要还是由我刚才讲的这个选举出来的这个人去决定他这个资金的使用以及去处。那关于到这个软件本身开发的费用呢，会由 Dan BM 自己先掏这个钱包去资助。那等这个 BP 们同意了使用这笔这个 Run Fee 里面的这个钱之后，我们可以在做一个这个报销的动作，把他之前自己掏出来的钱这个回给他。所以一开始他会是以自己的钱去资助这个项目。
All right. I do see a question in chat. So if anybody, I'm going to read the question out. If anybody else has any question, please raise your hand or write it out. Somebody asked Dan, how many non-Westerners are on the initial list of 18? And I think you can explain why that would be.
Sure. One of the biggest challenges with HiGov or the Eden process is the language barrier. People are going to be randomly assigned to groups to reach consensus, and they need to speak the same language, and not all groups are going to have translators because it's random. So the idea is that everyone that's participating in the first Eden group will have to speak English and be willing to participate on a Western time zone. As far as people from other countries, we've got people from Venezuela, we've got people from Israel, we've got people from Korea, and am I missing anyone else? Yves?
Well, the US, Canada. Yeah, I guess the only non-Westerner would be Korean in that sense. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. We tried to be as inclusive as possible, and are open to inviting anyone who's willing to support the Eden process and speak English and appear on US time or Western time zones.
刚才的问题就是说，在一开始的这个18个人，就是邀请制的这个18个人初始的这个名单里面有多少个是非西方社区的？那刚才戴尼也讲了，就是说，因为实际上整个搭建 Eden 的过程是需要很多视频讨论、视频会议的验证之类的。那语言上确实会是一个比较大的一个阻碍，因为这个语言是大家这个沟通的这个基础嘛。那也除了这个语言之外，还有时区上的一些不同。Sorry, it was noisy here. 除了这个语言之外，还有这个时区和语言上的这个区别。那也是因为这个原因呢，一开始会从这个英文社区开始搭建起来。那这个我们刚刚也提到，就是说 EOS 它整个未来的拓展是可以在不同社区以不同语言独立的方式去存在的但因为现在因为 Dan 本身是这个英语的这个 native speaker， 他先会以这个英文的方式去搭建 EOS， 但他也非常欢迎其他成员其他社区成员参与进来，只要你能这个英语的参与到所有的讨论环节，以及能跟他们在这个在比较适合到西方的这个社区的这个时区里面一起工作的话，那他也是非常欢迎社区成员参与进来的。
Anybody else have any questions? I don't see any hands up. I'm looking at the chat as well, if that's easier for people. So I guess if it wasn't really clear, oh yeah, go for it, Dan.
Yeah, I was going to ask, do you guys have any requests that I can do to help the Chinese community better?
大家针对这个中文社区在 EOS 上面有没有一些什么样的需求啊？也欢迎大家提出来。
And to add, the Eden as it stands right now with the founding members is essentially a proof of concept in a way, right? It's a pilot. The idea is then to leverage the process that's being laid out to learn from it, to develop the software that will support it, so that when this is out from A to Z in a couple of months, then, as Dan mentioned, other communities will be able to form with their own respective budgets, within their own communities, within their own language, their own cultures, by leveraging the tools that were built and created throughout the essentially pilot project.
那刚才 Eve 讲的那一点，我在之前也有提到，就是第一个版本的这个 EOS 的，确实还有很多，包括软件上面怎么去设计啊，这个流程上面我们需要跑一下的。那这个过程可能还是会有一些迭代的，所以为什么会选择在英文这个市场开始先去做这个去中心细化治理的这个过程，也是因为 Dan 是作为主要的发起人，他可以更快的去通过这个用英文的方式去沟通以及去迭代。但是 EOS 的设计呢，是在考虑到在不同的这个语言与社区的时候，是可以独立的进行 这个治理的这个发展和治理的这个过程。也就是说，等我们把这个等我们把这个在英文社区把这一整套工具也好，流程打磨完成好之后，就可以在其他的这个语言和地区进行用同样的方式去做这个去中心化的治理。
There's another question that came in, and it's about your book, Dan, and I guess I'll answer it. It'll be easy. Is your book open source, and so that people are able to translate it in their own languages freely? So currently there's a translation ongoing in Chinese, in Korean, and in Spanish, if I'm not mistaken, already. So yes, the book is open source. However, you can buy it as well. Dan encourages you to buy it, of course. The funds, if I'm not mistaken, will go to the creation of Eden OS and or Clarion. And yes, the book is being translated.
There's also an audio book.
Oh, that's right. There's also an audio book in English. I'm not sure about other languages yet.
刚刚有个提问，就是关于这本Dan写的这本新书，是不是开源的？是不是有其他语言的版本？那现在已知的就是有中文、韩文以及西班牙文版本正在被翻译中，然后也有这个这个有声的这个书正在制作中。
The next question I see is then if you're able to go into, I guess, detail about the utility of the NFT sale beyond it being a novelty. If not, why is the NFT process necessary? Essentially, if you can talk about that component.
The primary purpose of
Sorry. Let me translate the question first. Yeah. 有个问题就是说关于NFT 的这个使用，为什么会需要有这个 NFT 呢？是因为现在 NFT 比较火吗？还是这个 NFT 的主要用途是什么呢？
The purpose of the NFT system is generally to document the membership in EOS, in Eden, and in addition to documenting the membership, it also serves as a symbolic endorsement of the other members in the community.
这个 NFT 主要用于记录参与到这个 Eden OS 整个治理的过程。那 NFT 也可以作为一个社区的认证以及这个胸章。
Right. Anybody else have any questions? I know it can be, it can take some courage to muster up to ask your questions, but please do so. You've got Dan for another 15 minutes.
So I'll ask a question here. So how long do you envision that the bootstrapping process will be like? I remember reading from the proposal that there will be a bootstrapping period with the 18 initial people, and then getting to a period of time where the software and technology will be written and introduced. How long do you envision that period of time will take?
And there's always going to be room for improvement, but I suspect that the vast majority of the process will be online on the blockchain this time next year.
我刚刚的问题就是说，因为一开始确实会有很多手动的方式去验证手动方式去做这个选举的过程。那我刚刚的问题就是说，他预期多久的时间能把这些东西作为链上的方式去处理？那现在的回答就是说，他觉得当然他这个回答是他觉得是还是有空间可以做得更好的，但他觉得基本上所有的这些技术上面的这个实现都可以在明年的这个时候已经可以全部完成。
I've got a question, Dan. So it's always a challenge to communicate with the East, not simply due to language and culture barrier, but tools themselves are quite tricky. For example, Zoom tonight is working, but it doesn't always work. Telegram often doesn't work, and depending on the time of year, China cracks down and the VPN rules are updated, and you're screwed for the next couple of months. How will Eden OS or how are the tools that you're building will take into consideration that there are people that might want to participate, but they're unable to, not to lack of the want, but they're essentially barriers in the way for them to be able to participate?
My hope is that by, I'll let you translate.
Sorry. Eve 刚才问题就是说，Eden 整个计划里面会不会有包含一些，就是因为现在确实这个社区的这个沟通上面，特别中西方的这个沟通上面，确实还是有一些阻碍的，很多层面上来讲是来自于就不只是来自于语言啊这些的，也有一些来自于工具上的一些使用因为有一些工具在国内使用起来不是特别的方便嘛。那他想问的就是说，Eden OS有在这一方面上面会有什么样的一些工具能去帮到这个事情？就是假如大家有这个确实想要参与进来，但又有这些工具上的这个在国内使用某些工具不方便的话，那 Eden OS 有没有在这上面做一些考量？
One of the designs of Eden is to be regional in nature and to have each community elect their own leaders, and therefore only the leaders between the communities would have to coordinate and represent their communities, which means that those in China who are using the process can use tools that operate entirely within China without having to traverse the Great Wall of China. And that will hopefully evolve into a more regional, loosely coupled system instead of a tightly coupled system that we have today.
那他设想中的 Eden 呢，它会慢慢演变成，就是说，它可以去在不同的这个区域、国家与地区，可以更独立的去完成这些治理，提供这些工具，让他们可以更独立的去做这个事情，而不是就是全球性的所有人一个大的这个社区的方式。那这样的话，每个独立的这个社区可以满足自己的特殊的独立的这个需求，也能找到一些符合这个区域性更方便沟通的一些工具。
I'd like to add to that one of the goals is that there's independent infrastructure in China and in each country, and so that each community has their own block explorer, they have their own wallet, they have their own dev teams that know how to support the software, so that we're not centralized in any one location, but we will share common decisions about how to allocate the high-level budget divided evenly between the various communities that we are supporting.
那他觉得就是说，各个区域以独立的方式去选举，独立方式运作，独立的团队，独立的这些方式去参与进来，这样的话也可以从这个地域上更去中心化一些，而不是在就是但大家在一个这个治理层怎么去分配资金啊这些比较高层的上面有一些共同的这个理念上的认可以及这个流程上的认可，那就行了。因为具体的这个区域性的、地区性的确实是有一些不一样。那这些不同的区域性的团队也可以以独立的方式去参与进来，他们不需要都以共同的方式去做，或者使用共同的工具。
And Dan, are you planning on doing any other of these type of Q&As or live shows, AMAs? I know the answer, but with the Chinese community, so that they can get a better sense, not just the block producers, not just the standby block producers, but essentially the larger Chinese community, so that they can have an idea of what your vision is and how you plan on implementing it, and essentially where you're going with this.
问题
I'd like-
是这个 BM 你有没有未来有规划说可以去做更多的这个提问环节，让更多的这个中国社区的不只是这个节点能去向您提问，也能面向更多的这个广大的这个持币者社区呢？
I'd like to engage quarterly or potentially as frequently as monthly if necessary. But I would like to have more frequent interactions with the Chinese community, just so that we can all get on the same page and realize we're all one team that wants EOS to be successful.
是的，我是希望说，每个季度甚至说如果需要的话，每个月能有这样的一个机会跟中国的这个社区进行沟通，也能把我一些想法以及就是愿景，以及现在正在做的事情跟大家去讲让大家知道最新的一些进展。
There was another question that was sent previously, and it was about the cap of 10,000 people per community. Should a particular community have more than 10,000 members that are found throughout the process, is it possible that one region may have more than one essentially Eden?
Yes, the idea. Translate it.
刚才有一个问题就是说，这个 Eden 对刚才讲区域性的是每个区域可以有1万的这个Eden 的这个成员。那如果就是这个会如果可以怎么有没有办法演变说超出过1万个成员呢？比如说某些地区它可能人比较多的时候会怎么样？那会不会有一个区域会有2个Eden的这个存在，各都有1万呢？
All right. Yes, the idea is that there could be multiple on both the East and the West, or wherever. Anytime you get a group that gets to 10,000, or then they could be considered for addition by the other groups that are already at 10,000 to join. Each group should be taking measures to be independent of the other groups, so that they have independent infrastructure, independent block producers, independent teams. If they're not independent, then it can start to create unhealthy relationships between the groups. The idea is that every group of 10,000 should be a peer and an equal, both in what they're contributing to EOS and what they're taking from it.
BM 的回答是可以的。那只要说你能召集到这1万个不同的人，那他的想法是，比如说中国中文社区、英文社区，那会是2个不同的那但是如果你能召集到10万个人1万个人，我刚说错了，不好意思那当然他希望说这2个不同的Eden，它需要有很强的独立性，而不是2个很相近的这个体系。那如果2个他们出发点，他们的这个是不一样的，他们的这个愿景他们的这个是不一样的然后他所有的这个只是使用同类的这个治理体系，但人员也好这其他的都不一样的话，那才是比较这个合理以及健康的一个组织形态。
So there's only 5 minutes left. Dan, either do you have any closing words? If not, do you want to maybe share a sense of your impression on the momentum shift that we've seen over the last 3 months or so within the Western community at least, and maybe share that sentiment alongside with anything else that you'd like to add with the rest of the people on this call that may not be privy to it the way that you've seen it?
The turnaround in the West has been tremendous. People went from being depressed to being excited. It is as if it was 2017, 2018 all over again in terms of excitement and energy in the Western world. And I could not be more thrilled to be a part of it.
问题是大家自这个 EOS 发布以来，这个整个规划以来，Daniel BM 你有看到就是说整个社区上的一些变化吗？或者大家社区里面成员的反应是怎么样？那 BM 回答是，他发现就是说有非常大的一个转变，从原本大家觉得这个社区里面没有什么生气，大家都很沮丧，到现在大家都对这个 EOS 的整个规划非常的感兴趣，非常的这个兴奋，有点感觉回到了17、18年的那个感觉。那他自己也为这个事情感到非常的兴奋。
There is a question that came in, Dan. What is the key mission of EOS?
Right. I'll let you translate the question.
来自我看一下 ，Let me see。对，来自这个 Newdex 的 Neil 问的是EOS 的使命是什么呢？最重要的这个使命对于 EOS 是什么？他想达成什么？
The mission of EOS is to provide the most decentralized governance platform of any blockchain, to empower the community to control their chain in a way that represents the people and not an oligarchy.
对于 EOS 来讲，它 actually can you repeat that part? This is I have to think about how to translate it as well.
Right. The mission of EOS is to create the most decentralized democratic governance process that represents the people and empowers the people instead of representing an oligarchy.
EOS 的使命呢是创建一套这种去中心化的这个治理方式让人民可以去掌握这条链的走向以及发展，而不是让一小帮人去控制。
Could I get a show of hands or some kind of score of 1 to 10 from each of the block producers on how enthusiastic you are to support what's going on, with 0 being not enthusiastic at all and 10 being ecstatic?
Maybe we can do that in chat, phone. Yeah, I can see that Cardi already took the lead.
10 is ecstatic, right?
Yeah, 10 is ecstatic. 1 is I need to go back to sleep. Yeah.
对，那这个当然希望说大家这个 BP 们可以表达一下，就是说你们对于Eden 他刚刚讲的这个愿景你们的想法是什么？如果可以的话，可以在留言板块里面、留言区里面写下来，就是说打分0到10分，0分的话是你觉得不感兴趣，那10分的话，你觉得这个你对这个EOS想要达到的事情非常的兴奋。
Times 10 times 8. So maybe Dafang, you want to tell everybody that Dan is excited. 8. So he does know something. So just so for everybody, so we're getting on the hour mark here, and typically we end there. We did record this, and so we will share it afterwards with some people who asked, who then want to translate and subtitle for their respective communities. We've been taking notes, and we will share the English and the Chinese. Feel free afterwards to translate in your own respective language if you wish. There are a lot of people that were unable to make it tonight, but they've either they will watch the recording or they will send they will read the summary afterwards. If there are any other questions, Dan, I'll send them your way. Thank you very much, Dan, for joining us. Thank you very much, Dafeng, for translating, and thank you very much, everybody, for joining. If you have any questions, feel free to send them afterwards. I know that's kind of standard. People don't want to ask questions in front of others. And with that, maybe Dafeng, you want to translate? Maybe Dan, you want to say like a few last words, and then we'll cap this meeting.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah,
sorry.
Dan, you go ahead, so I can translate both at the same time.
Okay. Thank you guys so much for having me. Thank you, EOS Nation, for hosting this, and I look forward to seeing much more of you guys in the future.
感谢大家参与今天的会议。那本次会议也会有录屏，以及会有这个文字版的这个记录发出来。那也欢迎大家对这个录屏也好，或者对于这个文字版的进行翻译，去发到给你们社区成员中。关于这个今天讨论的内容，大家如果还有问题的话，刚才没有这个机会问出来的话，也可以回头在群里面我们进行讨论。那当然也非常感谢大家给他这个机会跟大家讲 EOS OS，也希望未来可以有更多的机会跟大家分享。谢谢各位。
All right, and with that, unless there's anything else to say, I'm gonna end this meeting and kick everybody else out, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye, everyone.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks.